Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about this upcoming general conference. I have a spreadsheet for this conference about all the different reasons why I think that this conference is going to be special. But we're going to put that aside in this video and look at 6 things to potentially look for in this next general conference. Before we do that, I got an email from Jason Yates. Jared, last night during the lunar eclipse, the picture was taken by one of the Portland Temple security guards, Brother Kanawai Ahina. I hope I pronounced that right. He shared it with me this morning and is so happy to share it with you. Just thought you might like to see another celestial sign behind a temple. Have a great rest of your day and keep up the great work. To the best of my knowledge, I've seen every video you've posted. My gosh. Well, congratulations on that, Jason. I should give you an award of some type, because I've made over 2,000 videos at this point. But thank you for passing this on to me. Here's the picture. I've put it on both Instagram and on Facebook. So, and I hope that you got to see this last night. I know Utah was experiencing snow and there were clouds obstructing the view of the eclipse. I had to stay up kind of late to watch it myself. It was worth it, but it was actually a terrible night after that. After we went to bed, I didn't get very much sleep. Let's just put it that way. But it's a really cool photo. And by the way, on Facebook, I have a temple photos album of other interesting temple photos. I have this one. This is one of my favorites. I was there for the eclipse last year, and one of my viewers, Floyd Gowans, took this picture at just the right time of the total solar eclipse above the Kirtland Temple, which occurred just a month after the church purchased the temple. So if you have any interesting photos like this, please send them my way. I ask that they don't be edited or altered because that kind of defeats the point. I just want to see the raw image, and then if I have your permission, then I'll share it on the channel and on social media. So follow me on Instagram and on Facebook. Okay. So here's the first thing that I'm curious about. So it's already been announced the dates for the open house of the Salt Lake Temple, but we don't have the dedication date yet. And it may not come this soon, I'm not sure. But in the last video that I did about this, we found out that for the temples that I pulled up, whenever you had an open house, you'd go for a certain amount of time, and then the dedication would come like a couple weeks later, maybe like a month later. And so I don't know if this temple is going to be dedicated in 2027 or if it could go all the way into 2028, maybe April 6th of 2028. I kind of doubt that. I think that it's going to be in late 2027, but let me know what you think in the comments below. But who knows, maybe they would save the announcement of when it's going to be dedicated for general conference rather than putting it out in the church newsroom or church news. So that's something that could happen. All right. The next thing is the Kirtland Temple. Last year, the church purchased the Kirtland Temple from Community of Christ, and I wanted to be there to tour the temple and also be there for the eclipse because the path of totality went over the Kirtland Temple. And so on the day of the eclipse, this was the day after general conference, we went there really early because I didn't know what traffic was going to be like or how many people were going to be there. And we got there so early that my wife and kids slept in the car for a couple hours. And that gave me time to do a live stream and just go explore the temple grounds myself. And it was an amazing experience. And as I was exploring the outside of the temple and the temple grounds, there were a few things I didn't care for too much. The first thing are these power lines that go right over the front of the temple, which is very unsightly. I don't know what the Community of Christ had done with the Kirtland Temple while it was in its possession as far as its upkeep and maintenance and stuff like that. They're a much, much, much smaller church, only 250,000 people compared to our church, which is about to hit 18 million. And so they have less resources, and you can't fault them for that. But I'm wondering if the church can talk to the city of Kirtland or whoever they need to talk to about burying the power lines, or if there's some way to get them over to the other side of the street or something like that, because this just looks awful. And then as I was walking around the temple, I noticed all these like cracks, and these cracks are just all around the temple. Also, there was this kind of weird thing, like a tree stump with a roof and like a carving of a sun right here. Um, I mean, it's quaint. I don't know if it's necessarily the style of our church and church temple grounds. So I wonder if during this next general conference, they would announce like a big renovation project of the Kirtland Temple and the temple grounds and also the visitor center. I don't know if that would be announced in conference or if that would just come out in church news, but I feel like there's a lot that needs to be done to have it up to our current standards for temples and temple grounds. And if that happened, I would be really happy. It's not that it was bad. This is nothing against Community of Christ, but they are a different church. They have limited resources. They have different standards. And I would just like to see the Kirtland Temple up to our standards and have it match more just other temples and other temple grounds. So I think that that would be pretty incredible. Okay, the next thing is the number of temples that President Nelson is going to announce. It's all but certain that he's going to announce new temples. He's announced temples every single general conference during his presidency. This is a spreadsheet called Prophets Talks. And as of right now, if you look at column Q, this is a breakdown of how many temples he's announced per general conference. So in his first general conference, he announced 7, which isn't really too much of a surprise. We've noticed President Nelson using the number 7 in many different ways. Now, as of right now, he's announced a total of 185 temples. And after having observed President Hinckley and President Nelson and getting a feel for how these things kind of go, I think he's going to make it an even 200 with this next general conference. So that's the thing to look forward to. Last conference, he announced 17, and the most that he's announced at any given time was 20 back in the October 2023 General Conference and also in the April 2021 General Conference. And that's the largest number of temples ever announced by any president of the church at one time is 20. So it's yet to be seen if that record is going to be broken, but with this General Conference, I would say it's probably going to be 15. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The last General Conference was his 14th General Conference. I just added this column in preparations for this video. And that's kind of interesting because, oh my gosh, I just realized something. Okay. Remember how I just said that President Nelson does things in sevens? Okay, so you have these first 7 General Conferences. And then in between General Conferences 7 and 8, like right in the middle here, he announced the Ephraim, Utah Temple. This was not during General Conference. And then after that, every other temple so far during his presidency has been announced in General Conference. And so you have these two sets of 7 General Conferences split in 2 by the announcement of the Ephraim, Utah Temple. I just realized that as I'm recording this video. That is really exciting. Okay, so it was during his 14th General Conference, so that's 2 sevens, where he had his big Second Coming talk. Now I'm starting to think that maybe there's a reason why it was that conference. There's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to think about. So many like little details that we've noticed. Another thing is he has intentionally controlled the length of some of his messages. Notably, the hashtag Give Thanks message in November of 2020. Sherry Dew said that he wanted that message to be a certain length, and it went against the conventional wisdom of his like social media consultants. So he does things at certain times, on certain dates, at a certain frequency, certain numbers, and the last General Conference, it's interesting because the length of that talk, the Lord Jesus Christ will come again, it was 14 minutes and 49 seconds, which is, 14 is 2 sevens, and then 49 is 7 times 7. So, but I didn't realize until this video that was his 14th General Conference as president of the church. This is crazy. And then he announced 17, and he's the 17th president of the church. Okay, so yeah, is he going to announce 15? I feel like he probably will, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, the next thing is it's going to be the Sunday of General Conference is going to be April 6th. And I'm interested to see if any of the speakers are going to mention that in their talks. And I feel like there's a good chance that they will. So let me just read these two quotes. This is from Elder Richard G. Scott. This is the April 1997 General Conference, and he says, "It is April 6th. Modern scripture records that Jesus Christ was born on this day." And then, more recently, this is the April 2014 General Conference. Elder Bednar, "Bear up their burdens with ease." Today is April 6th. We know by revelation that today is the actual and accurate date of the Savior's birth. April 6th also is the day on which the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was organized. On this special and sacred Sabbath day, I declare my witness that Jesus the Christ is our Redeemer. So that was a General Conference when the Sunday of General Conference coincided with April 6th. And that's what's going to happen this year. I have this spreadsheet called Timeline Special Days. And if you look at column L right here with these gold and blue cells, gold indicates that the Sunday of General Conference is on April 6th. The last time that happened was from that General Conference that we were just reading from with Elder Bednar, the April 2014 General Conference. Before that, it was 2008. So you can see that it's not, completely uncommon to have April 6th fall during the Sunday of General Conference or the Saturday, because you have blue that indicates Saturday. But it's not like every year. So it's kind of spread out. The next time that April 6th is going to be during General Conference, it's going to be on the Sunday of General Conference, and it'll be the April 2031 General Conference. So this is something that we haven't seen since 2014. Where were you and what were you doing in 2014? At that time, I was in the Army. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been that long. And then the next time will be in 2031. So will they say anything about it in this conference? Is something special going to happen during this conference because Sunday is going to be on April 6th? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Another thing that you may not know about if you haven't been watching my channel for very long, or if you missed these videos, I have a spreadsheet called Timeline Jubilees. And recently, like within the last several months, I found out that Joseph Smith was declaring every 7th year of church history as a Jubilee year. This isn't the same type of Jubilee that you read about in the Old Testament. Those occurred every 50 years. So you would have 49 years, which are kind of like weeks. Like each year would be a day of the week, and you'd have a sabbatical year every 7 years, and you go 49 years, and then the 50th year would be a Jubilee. This is not what we're talking about. And I don't know why he was calling these Jubilee years, but whatever the case, in 1836, which was the 7th year of the church, the first year was 1830, and then 1836 was the 7th year. And it makes sense, I guess, that the Kirtland Temple was dedicated in that year. He declared that year a Jubilee year. And then 7 years later, in 1843, and you can read it right here. Let me scroll down. You can pause and read this. I'm not going to read it in this video. And then you can pause and read this. But the Jubilee year was declared on April 6th. So, as it turns out, if this had continued, and I don't know that it did, unless it did privately among the brethren, if you fast forward to this year, 2025, this would be the 28th Joseph Smith Jubilee. And April 6th is on the Sunday of General Conference. And, recently President Nelson celebrated his 7th anniversary as president of the church. So that's another thing to think about. I think I missed something. Oh yeah, by the way, if we go back to this and we look at the April 6th of 2019. That fell on the Saturday of General Conference. And that was the General Conference, and that was the day that President Nelson said that time is running out. We're going to cover that in just a minute. So if that's the last time that April 6th was during one of the days of General Conference, and President Nelson said that time is running out, and this General Conference is the next time April 6th is going to be during General Conference, then I don't know. Maybe we're looking at bookends. It could be. Okay, let's move on. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anything. Okay. The next thing I'm curious about with this General Conference is if there's going to be any mention of the Los Angeles fires in any of the talks. If we go back to that April 2019 General Conference that I was just talking about, President Nelson gave this talk called Come Follow Me. And before this conference, you had the Paradise, California fire, which nearly burnt down the entire city. And of course, this could be a foreshadowing of the second coming, because we know that when Christ comes, there's going to be a big burning event. So this could have been a warning to those that have eyes to see and ears to hear. You have the city that was burnt down. And then later on, at the end of the talk, President Nelson gives us this warning. Now, as president of his church, I plead with you who have distanced yourselves from the church, and with you who have not yet really sought to know that the Savior's church has been restored, do the spiritual work to find out for yourselves, and please do it now. Time is running out. Well, okay, so here we are. We have the next April 6th. That's going to be during this General Conference. And what happened in Los Angeles this year is comparable to what happened in Paradise, California. So this is my spreadsheet called Signs, Wildfires, Cities Destroyed, where I've tried to take or put together a list of cities. In this case, it wasn't the entire city of Los Angeles, but it was basically an entire neighborhood of Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades, and then you also had Altadena. And between all those fires, the most recent numbers that I've been able to find is that there were 18,000 structures that were destroyed. Well, if we go back to the Paradise, California fire of 2018, that also had about 18,000 structures that were destroyed. With this most recent fire, I don't know if that number is going to be updated or if it's final, but this is a very similar thing. I was actually curious because back in August of 2023, that's when we had the Lahaina, Hawaii fire, which was very reminiscent of the Paradise fire. But, you know, and I was wondering, like, is there going to be something similar to the time is running out that said after that happened? Well, nothing like that did happen, but in this General Conference, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if these fires show up in some of the speakers' talks. It'd be interesting if President Nelson mentions it in his talk. So, but one thing about this fire, in contrast to the Paradise, California fire, is I found this article. This is by Vox. And they say, AccuWeather estimated that the total damage plus broader economic slowdown would add up between $250 billion and $275 billion. That would make the 2025 Los Angeles fires the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history, more than the $200 billion total bill from Hurricane Katrina in 2005. So these Los Angeles fires, they happen in a more prominent area with a more affluent population. There were celebrities that lost their homes, and a lot of these homes were very costly. So in a lot of ways, this set of fires was worse than the Paradise, California fires of 2018. Again, President Nelson said after that, time is running out. Now we've had this. Is there going to be some kind of follow-up to that? Is time up at this point? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm curious about with this General Conference is if we go back to the October 2022 General Conference, President Nelson, in his talk called Focus on the Temple, he announced these temples right here, and then he stopped to say this before announcing the last set of temples. He said, "We are also planning to build multiple temples in selected large metropolitan areas where travel time to an existing temple is a major challenge. Therefore, I am pleased to announce 4 additional locations near Mexico City." And then he announces the locations. Now, to my knowledge, we haven't seen a follow-up of this. Let me show you what this looked like. Let's go to Google Earth. Okay, so right here. So this white place mark is the Mexico City Temple. That's been there since, I can't remember how long, like, what was it, the 70s, the 80s? For a long time, all Mexico City had was that temple. And then all of a sudden, in just one General Conference, you have these temples right here that were announced. And then, I don't know if it was later on or before he had this one, which also is in that area. So if you're a resident of Mexico City, this was a big deal. All of a sudden, you have all these temples announced around you. And so I've been curious to see the follow-up to that, because he said it's not just going to be Mexico City. There's other large metropolitan areas that are going to, the church is going to do something similar with. And I don't think that we've seen that. If you go to churchofjesuschristtemples.org, this is probably the best website that has to do with temples of the church. I tried to look for a couple examples that could be part of this. So you have, for example, the Dallas, Texas Temple, 1984. Well, recently you had the groundbreaking for the Fort Worth, Texas Temple, although that was announced before this General Conference that we're talking about right here, October 2022. The groundbreaking was in 2023. So I don't know that this would be part of what President Nelson is talking about. Later on, you have the McKinney, Texas Temple that was announced December 4th of 2023. Is that when it was announced? Oh, site announced. Okay, sorry. Anyway, recently announced, and this is also in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. So, you know, you have those 3, but I feel like it's not the same thing as what we're talking about here, where there's just kind of like this, all of a sudden, multiple temples popping up all at once or being announced all at once. Another one, if we go back here and we look at the red highlights, you have the Buenos Aires, Argentina Temple, dedicated in 1986. And then more recently, let's see, we have the Buenos Aires City Center, Argentina Temple. And again, what's the state again? The site was announced December of 2024. But yeah, I don't think that that's what President Nelson is talking about. So I don't think that we've seen any other like Mexico City type announcements. And so we may see that in this next General Conference. And I'm curious what cities they're considering. I immediately think about Phoenix because that's where I lived, and we didn't have a temple in the West Valley. I lived in Surprise. I also lived in Goodyear, and you know, before we knew that we were going to move from there, I was hoping that there would be a temple announced in Surprise or maybe in Buckeye or something like that, maybe Glendale. So, and there's a lot of members of the church in the Phoenix area. So, with this next General Conference, for example, if they decide to do that with Phoenix, could we see a Goodyear temple, a Buckeye temple, Avondale, Glendale, Peoria? You know, who knows? But it's going to be exciting whenever this next one happens. So, okay. Well, just to recap, so we're looking forward to these in this video. We're looking forward to these 6 things. Are we going to get the Salt Lake Temple dedication date? Is that going to be on April 6th of 2028? Is there going to be a big renovation project for the Kirtland Temple? Is President Nelson is he going to announce 15 temples to complete 200 that he's announced? Is there going to be anything special because April 6th is on the Sunday of General Conference? Are the Los Angeles fires going to be brought up? And then are we going to see another round of a cluster of metropolitan area temples announced for some city? But all right, well, that's all that I have for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.